1 Roman, current volume of percentage of water storage in each reservoir. 2, actual percentage of groundwater in each of the 6 supply zones, indicating in each case the water production and water deficit on a daily basis. And 3, number of new boreholes drilled since December 2024 to date, indicating the additional volume of water harnessed therefrom. And B, state the number of families who have benefited from the water tank and rainwater harvesting grant scheme since December 2024 to date.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, Mauritius is experiencing significant challenges to its water resources due to climate change, which has resulting in more frequent and severe droughts. This variability poses a threat to the availability of freshwater resources, impacting daily water consumption. Over the past 5 years, Madam Speaker, the island has witnessed 3 prolonged dry episodes in hydrological years: 2020, 2021, 22, 2023, and 2024, and even this year. The present hydrological year has been worse among those 3. It is to be highlighted that since July 2024, Mauritius has been experiencing several months of deficit in rainfall, with July 2024 being the driest in the past 120 years. Rainfall in the month of July to February has been generally below average. With regards to part A1 of the question, I am informed by the Water Resources Commission and the Central Water Authority that the total volume and percentage of water storage in the 7 main reservoirs as at today, 4th March 2025, stand at 37.81 million cubic meters, representing 41.41% percentage. I am tabling the details of each of the 7 reservoirs. Concerning part A2 of the question, as of March 3rd, 2025, water production across the 6 water supply zones shows a reduction in both surface water and groundwater production compared to normal daily values. Overall, total surface water production across all 6 zones decreased by 17.44%, while groundwater production fell by 20.85%. Consequently, the total combined water production dropped from a normal of 1,068,267 meter cube per day to an annual of 865,061 meter cube per day. Madam Speaker, I am tabling the detailed information per zone. With regards to part A3 of the question, the Ministry and CWA undertake borehole drilling campaign every year based on CWA requirement for potable use. For the period of January to November 2024, 5 boreholes have been drilled at Camp-le-Vieux, Goodlands, Rampe-le-Moins, Côte d'Or, and Bird. New borehole has been drilled at Constance-la-Gaîté and Fond-du-Sac from December 2024 to February 2025. Another borehole is currently being drilled at Mapu. Another 5 boreholes are planned to be drilled under existing contract in the coming month. I am informed by the Central Water Authority that additional volume of water harnessed since December 24 stand at 7500 mètres cubes par jour. Madame la Présidente, concernant la partie B de la question, un programme de subvention pour l'achat des réservoirs d'eau a été mis en place en 2011 afin d'aider les familles à faible revenu à acquérir un réservoir d'eau et ainsi atténuer les difficultés causées par une alimentation en eau restreinte. Ce programme est actuellement géré par la DBM et les ménages percevant un revenu mensuel inférieur à 60 000 roupies peuvent bénéficier d'une subvention de 15 000 roupies pour l'achat d'un réservoir d'eau de 1000 litres et d'une pompe à eau et de certains accessoires. La DBM a informé que 310 familles ont bénéficié du programme de subvention pour l'achat des réservoirs d'eau depuis décembre 2024 à ce jour. En outre, la DBM gère actuellement un programme de subvention pour la collecte des eaux de pluie, permettant aux ménages dont les revenus mensuels est inférieur à 60 000 roupies de bénéficier d'une subvention de 10 000 roupies pour l'achat d'un réservoir destiné à la collecte des eaux de pluie. Au 10 décembre 2010, on m'a informé qu'un total de 6 400 demandes avaient été reçues, avec 609 coupons délivrés aux bénéficiaires.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Minister for his reply. He has submitted the actual storage capacity of our reservoirs, which is quite alarming, and the tendency shows that the level is decreasing drastically. Will the Honourable Minister inform the House that in case of a no-flow situation in those reservoirs, when do we expect that those reservoirs will reach their dead storage level?
Madame la Présidente, comme je l'ai dit dans le passé, si éventuellement nous ne recevons pas la pluie d'été qui, chaque année, remplit nos réservoirs, à la fin d'avril de cette année-ci, nous serons dans une situation encore plus catastrophique parce que même si nos réservoirs ont 40% à ce jour, autour de 40% à ce jour, bien en dessous de 15%, nous allons devoir arrêter les pompages parce qu'il y a de la boue un peu plus bas. Donc, pour répondre à la question du leader de l'opposition, fin avril, nous serons dans une situation difficile. Mais entre-temps, je peux dire que nous avons commencé à avoir des drilling, des boreholes, simplement pour limiter la casse. Mais pour répondre à la question du leader de l'opposition, ce sera fin avril, début mai.
Can I, Madam Speaker, or will the Honourable inform the House, Honourable Minister inform the House, whether there is a contingency plan which has been prepared by his ministry for this dry season? And if yes, will he table a copy of that contingency plan?
D'abord, je dois préciser, Madame, que
Hold your horses, please.
je dois préciser, Madame la Présidente, que nous gérons cette crise au quotidien. Je préside personnellement une réunion de crise chaque matin à mon ministère et je dois dire que cette réunion de crise, la gestion de l'eau au quotidien me prend presque toute la journée de travail. En ce qui concerne un plan pour gérer la situation et après, je dois dire que d'abord, nous avons hérité. Nous avons malheureusement hérité d'une situation qui nous met aujourd'hui, la population dans son ensemble, dans une situation difficile. Nous avons un plan qui se fait annuellement, pour gérer la situation annuellement. Nous avons aussi un comité de crise qui gère la situation au quotidien. Nous avons aussi pris la décision d'avoir un plan pour après-avril. Ce plan d'après-avril consiste aussi à utiliser à fond les boreholes, à utiliser à fond l'eau de le CEB, les dames des CEB qui se servent pour l'électricité. Nous avons pris aussi la décision de prendre les dames qui appartiennent au secteur privé, et cela a été fait dans une coopération patriotique. Pour répondre à la question du leader de l'opposition, je vais déposer le Water Crisis Committee qui gère d'une façon quotidienne ce que nous a été légué par l'ancien gouvernement. Mais je dois aussi dire, puisque la question est venue de l'ancien ministre, je suis obligé malheureusement, Madame la Présidente, de revenir. Comment on est arrivé à cette situation? Comment on est arrivé à cette situation que le leader de l'opposition, qui a été, si je me rappelle bien, l'ancien ministre responsable de ce dossier, me pose la question en 3 mois, comment je vais faire pour gérer les gabegies et les scandales de 10 ans? Permettez-moi, Madame la Présidente, de parler du fameux projet de rivière des Anguilles-Dames. Un projet de barrage, puisque vous voulez avoir des renseignements, je vous donne des renseignements. Un projet de barrage de rivière des Anguilles-Dames annoncé pour 2015, depuis 2015. Est-ce que...
You may not have asked specifically. Is that what you're saying? You didn't ask specifically.
Madam Speaker, I've asked a specific question whether there is a contingency plan for the country to face that dry season. The answer is yes or no. And if it is yes, I have requested the Minister to table the contingency plan. Let me get to another question, Madam Speaker. Let me get to another question. If he doesn't have that plan.
No, but he hasn't finished. He hasn't finished.
Yeah, but he's talking about his Rivière des Anguilles, the contingency plan.
Madame la Présidente.
Laissez-moi décider. Honourable Leader of the Opposition, you may ask a supplementary question. That is your right. But the Minister also has the right to reply the way that he thinks he should reply. I don't think he is really out of the subject. So let him finish that part. And then you can put another question.
J'ai pas, Madame la Présidente, encore une fois, ma réponse initiale, Madame la Présidente, vous apprécierez que ma réponse initiale a été très courte pour permettre aux leaders de l'opposition aussi d'avoir des renseignements voulus. J'ai préféré déposer ce plan pour que les leaders de l'opposition puissent avoir le temps de poser tes questions. Mais puisque le leader de l'opposition veut que j'énumère les contingency plans, mais laissez-moi donner à la Chambre alors ce que j'ai fait pendant que j'ai pris le poste. Suspension of sugarcane irrigation across the island to give priority to potable use. Cela a été fait, monsieur le leader de l'opposition. Revise hours of water supply across the island as from le 20 janvier 2025. The Central Water Authority has prioritized leak related to complaint attending 5511 repairs since le 20 janvier 2025. 4. Additional resources have been provided to the Central Water Authority to face this situation and reinforce its call center, water tanker services and operation units. 5. A water tanker unit has been set up under the supervision of a chief engineer and is being centrally managed. Je continue puisque le leader de l'opposition veut avoir des renseignements. 6. Installation of 6 water tanks de 9 mètres cubes, mainly in the north, Port-Louis, Plaine-William, the south. 7. Mobilisation of additional water resources in partnership with the private sector, comme je le disais un peu auparavant, namely Medellin, ENL, private owners, abstraction from rivers and private borehole. 8. Utilisation of CB tailwater, comme je l'ai dit, at réduit hydropower station and Tamarind Fall. 9. Assistance from Mauritius Fire and Rescue Services to extend support for scheduled water supply to some severely affected areas, including public beaches. 10. Je suis obligé de le faire, j'avais déposé. The Central Water Authority Dry Season Regulation.
Let the minister speak.
The Central Water Authority Dry Season Regulation 2025 came into operation with effect from le 17 février 2025, enforcing a ban of the use of treated water or water from a water source through a hose or pressure washer. 4. Washing vehicle, washing pavement, building or part of building, watering edges, lawn and gardens, filling swimming pool, 11, madame, meeting with the Mauritius Police Force to enforce the Central Water Authority Dry Season Regulation 2025, 12, an outreach program in water stress region on water tank grant scheme to encourage eligible households to avail of the scheme. 13. Aggressive sensitization campaign on water saving usage.
You're tabling this document?
Yes, of course, j'avais fait ça au départ, mais il ne voulait pas.
Madam Speaker, I requested that that information be tabled.
Yes, but does it hurt? Does it hurt any citizen of the country that he speaks
Then
about?
you have to give me excess time for me to put my questions,
no.
Madam Speaker. Then all these decisions should have been taken last year, not this year. May I ask the Minister a question then? Does the Minister find it normal that during this very difficult period, he took 2 weeks vacations last year? And if it was not for the Minister replacing him, who drew the attention of the Prime Minister on this situation, the situation would have been much worse than it is today.
No need to
Does it find it normal?
No need to answer that. This is most unfair. This is most unfair. Ministers travel, ministries carry on with their jobs. So don't answer. There's no need to answer that.
My next question.
Yes, you may.
Yes. In a PNQ, the Honourable Minister stated with regard to the Cluny Reservoir that the reservoir will be demolished. Will the Minister table the report which has recommended the demolishing of the Cluny Reservoir?
Madame la Présidente, ce sujet est un sujet sérieux. L'eau, c'est la vie. Et je m'attendais à ce qu'il y ait un débat civilisé sur ce sujet d'eau, parce que cela concerne la population dans son ensemble, la population dans les coins et recoins de ce pays. Je voudrais, si vous me permettez, Madame la Présidente, dire franchement à la Chambre que je n'avais pas l'intention de parler du réservoir de Cluny. Surtout la question venant du leader de l'opposition qui a été celui responsable de ce dossier au ministère de l'Énergie et des Utilités publiques. Ne me forcez pas à dire à la Chambre ne me forcez pas à dire à la Chambre, Monsieur le leader de l'opposition, Madame la Présidente, ce que j'ai vu dans les dossiers au sein du ministère. Ah. Puisque vous n'avez pas de problème, Monsieur le leader de l'opposition, je me permettrai de le dire. Il fut un temps, Madame la Présidente, que le General Manager de la Central Water Authority, M. Prakash Mantura, avec cette ardoise de 700 millions de roupies pour le Pipe Replacement Programme. Et ce même General Manager ne répondait même pas à ce ministre de l'Énergie d'antan, qui répondait à la cuisine directement. Et aussi, ce ministre ose me poser la question, et aussi un ministre digne de ce nom, responsable de l'eau et de l'énergie dans ce pays, ne pouvait même pas interpeller le General Manager de la CWA sur les manquements, sur les dilapidations, sur les scandales qui étaient sous son ministère. Et aujourd'hui, il ose me parler de Cluny, qui a pris la photo ensemble avec l'ancien Premier ministre devant le réservoir de Cluny, qui avait ce sourire avec 25 dents dehors. Et aujourd'hui, nous n'avons pas, la population ne rit pas avec 25 dents dehors, avec 25 fissures. 25 fissures sur ce réservoir. Et
you asked about the reservoir of Cluny.
Yeah. Oh, you agree to what he has said, Madam Speaker?
I can't hear. Let me listen to what
We are not supposed to pass a comment on a person in this house, Madam Speaker.
Et Cluny,
Minister,
oui.
don't make personal attacks.
Oui, bien sûr. Non, je n'ai pas fait référence au ministre, moi. La construction de 2 réservoirs, Madame la Présidente, Cluny et Richelieu, réalisés au coût de 74 millions de roupies en vue d'approvisionner la région du Sud, New Grove, Cluny, Rosebel, a été un fiasco monumental, scandaleux. Et ceux ou celles responsables de ce scandale vont devoir payer tôt ou tard. Un peu plus de 16 mois après leur inauguration par l'ancien Premier ministre et l'ancien ministre responsable de l'eau, 25 fissures, Monsieur le ministre, Madame la Présidente, ont été relevées, rendant ces réservoirs inutilisables à ce jour, 3000 mètres cubes. Nous devons aujourd'hui pomper dans des boreholes qui auraient servi pour d'autres régions pour alimenter le Sud. La population du Sud subit les conséquences. Actuellement, j'ai demandé une enquête sur ces 2 réservoirs. La commission d'enquête fait son travail. Les techniciens, le côté financier, le côté technique, et aussi ceux et celles qui ont été responsables pour après 16 mois. Ce réservoir est inutilisable. En temps et lieu, je déposerai à l'Assemblée nationale le rapport technique et financier concernant ces deux réservoirs.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
No, but he has taken a lot of time. But may I ask, Honourable Minister, sur la base de quoi, de quel rapport il a dit à la Chambre qu'il faut démolir ce réservoir? Sur la base de quoi? Parce qu'il dit que l'enquête est en cours. Mais c'est sur la base de quoi?
Madame la Présidente, Monsieur l'ancien ministre, si je peux me permettre, ou leader de l'opposition actuelle, est sûrement au courant que, avec 25 fichures sur un réservoir, après que le contracteur a essayé de réparer à plusieurs reprises, nous nous retrouvons aujourd'hui, Monsieur le leader de l'opposition, avec un réservoir inutilisable. Les renseignements, les rapports préliminaires des techniciens du ministère préliminaires montrent que ce réservoir va devoir être détruit. Si ce réservoir peut être réparé, je serai l'homme le plus heureux du monde pour pouvoir alimenter. Ceci dit, il n'y a pas que, c'est important de le dire, il n'y a pas que ce problème de réservoir, Madame la Présidente. Il y a aussi le programme de pipe replacement programme qui a été un échec total. Nous parlons de 700 millions de roupies, 2 fois 350 millions de roupies. Est-ce que, je me pose la question des fois, et j'ai posé la question aux techniciens de mon ministère, est-ce que le ministre responsable en ce temps a posé la question au responsable de la CWA pour dire si nous investissons 700 millions de roupies pour remplacer les tuyaux, combien de pourcentage en réduction dans la déficit d'eau de 62% dans notre réseau, on va pouvoir réduire? Si on investit un peu d'argent, c'est pouvoir réduire les leakages. Mais aujourd'hui, les 62% remontent à plusieurs années. Et ces 700 millions, il faut bien le dire, l'occasion m'est donnée aujourd'hui de le dire, les 700 millions ont été dilapidés dans une opacité totale. Peut-être le leader de l'opposition, peut-être quand il conduit sa voiture, il ne remarque pas, ou peut-être vous, madame, vous avez remarqué, les tuyaux de la CWA sont installés sur la terre, un peu partout, au risque d'être abîmés. Et la CWA, madame la présidente, a payé pour l'enfouissement de ces tuyaux. L'enfouissement de ces tuyaux. Et si dans le passé, le ministre n'a pas pu, et on a posé, l'ancien leader de l'opposition, l'honorable Avin Boulel, avait posé la question à ce sujet. L'honorable Bagouane avait posé la question. Le ministre n'avait pas répondu. Ce jour-là, quand on avait posé la question concernant le rapport de l'auditrice en chef de la CWA, l'ancien ministre s'est battu en touche. Et n'a pas voulu se mouiller. Et aujourd'hui, il veut me mouiller. Non, madame, non. La situation aujourd'hui est due. Et la première chose que j'allais, malheureusement, je ne peux pas poser de question, mais la première question qu'il fallait poser, le leader de l'opposition aurait dû me demander quand est-ce qu'on aura le fameux 24/7. C'est ça qu'il fallait me demander. Quand on aura le fameux 24/7, pour moi, c'est l'escroquerie du siècle du MSM. C'est l'escroquerie du siècle du MSM. Vendu à la population en 2014 par l'ancien ministre Colin Davilou, par l'ancien Premier ministre Pravin Jagnat, par l'ancienne équipe Les Pep, vendu un mirage à la population. Aujourd'hui, cette population souffre par la façon de gérer de l'ancien gouvernement, par la façon de gérer, excusez-moi, par l'ancien ministre. Je ne citerai pas son nom ici, mais suivez mon regard, on saura qui c'est. On saura qui c'est. Hein? Qui c'est? Et aujourd'hui, la population paye les pots cassés de ce que 10 ans de mal planification, de scandale et de fiasco.
the opposition, we got 1 minute left.
No,
Should
Madam
you
Speaker,
open the floodgate? You open the floodgate.
you don't have to put the blame on me. I need to put questions, Madam Speaker. I'll put my questions.
Now time is up. Now time is up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All that he has said, the situation will deteriorate in the coming months.
That's not a question. And time is up.
I again request the Honourable Minister through a question whether he has a contingency plan for the dry season. If he has one, I will request him to table that plan in the House, for the House to see.
No more. This is repeating. No more. You have no more time. I think you've said quite a lot, but no. You have to table. You table. Table whatever document you can. You table. Time is up. I'm sorry. Allez. Yes. Questions? Honourable members, the table has been advised that PQB 91 will be replied by the Honourable Prime Minister, time permitting, along with PQ 74. Have I got it right, Prime Minister? Both these questions you're going to reply. So now I call Honourable Fourth Member for Portrush North and Montaillon.
E71.
Madam Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for the question. Indeed, there have been numerous abuses of the public procurement system by the previous government. One of the most striking and conspicuous abuse has been during the COVID-19 period for the purchase of medical supplies and equipment. Madam Speaker, that is why the government program of 2025-2029, in that we have announced that the Public Procurement Act will be reviewed. Our aim is to prevent abuse, strengthen accountability, enhance transparency and integrity in the public procurement system. The review will also aim at aligning our procurement system with international best practices. It will enforce better contract execution and supplier performance. With regard to the question of whether consideration would be given to amending Schedule 2 of the Act, I wish to clarify to the House that all the schedules, including second schedule, previously under the Public Procurement Act, were repealed as from 20th of July 2023 and incorporated under the Public Procurement Regulations of 2008. Madam Speaker, clearly the current public procurement system needs to be improved. Some issues need to be addressed urgently. First, the current legislation is based on an outdated 1994 United Nations model law on procurement. Second, there is a lack of oversight over excluded and exempt public entities. Third, there are too many entities dependent on public funds which are not covered by the Public Procurement Act. It appears, Madam Speaker, that a few of them may have been deliberately excluded so that nobody can see what was happening. Fourth, the system is discriminatory. There is no level playing field. I'll give you an example. The housing construction is being undertaken by the National Housing Development Company Limited, NHDC, which is under the PPA. However, there is the new Social Living Development Company Limited, SLLD, which is also responsible for housing construction, but doesn't fall under the PPA. How is that possible? We don't understand. Similarly, the NDU, responsible for drains construction and operates under the PPA. was the Drains Infrastructure Construction Limited, also involved in drains construction, does not. One can only guess, Madam Speaker, why such discriminatory approach. It beggars belief. It is, we know what has happened. We know, we've heard just now how many millions have been, I don't know whether pocketed or wasted or whatever. Madam Speaker, during the review of the public procurement system, consideration will be given to cover as far as possible all entities which involve public funds for their operations and for which government is accountable in Parliament. Unlike the previous government, we will make this accountable. This approach is also in line with our plan to introduce a legal framework for greater fiscal responsibility. To make it clear, unlike the previous regime, this government generally, wherever there are public funds involved, there should be accountability for every rupee and every cent that is spent from public funds. This never was the case before. I can assure the House that government will have an oversight on the procurement by all entities using public funds. Madam Speaker, I wish also to reassure the House that this government is fully committed to ensure that there is a transparent and effective public procurement system in place which promotes value for money, both in terms of monetary value and quality. Very often we forget about quality. The cheapest is not necessarily the best. So monetary value, quality, accountability, integrity, fairness, and efficiency in the use of public funds at all levels. I have no doubt, Madam Speaker, that these reforms will reaffirm public trust in the public procurement system.
Thank you. Yes.
Speaker, I'm glad to hear from the Prime Minister that he intends to have a level playing field for public procurement wherever funds of government, public funds are involved. But as a matter of urgency, will the Prime Minister consider adding all those SOEs and special purposes vehicles that exist today, that since the legislation was enacted in 2006 by his government, have not been specifically included under the application of the Act? Whether these would be done now as a matter of urgency, notwithstanding future amendments that may be brought.
This is precisely what I said. Wherever there is public money involved, every rupee and every cent spent, public money which is spent, will fall under the new PPA Act.
Yes, your next question. Oh, you have another one? All right.
Same subject. Madam Speaker, it can be brought by way of regulation. The question is very, very direct. Can the Prime Minister tell us whether what is the hold-up for adding all those SPVs and SOEs now under the control of the public procurement?
For 10 years, nobody thought about it. Now what are you doing? You're in a rush to know why? Exactly. When? We will do it when we are ready to do it.
Okay, next question now.
B72.
Madam Speaker, let me state at the very beginning that transparency and accountability will be the core values and actions of this government. We have already announced in the government program of 2025 and 2029 that the Freedom of Information Act will be introduced for the purpose of enhancing transparency in relations to decisions of all public institutions. The House would appreciate that Freedom of Information Acts lay the principle of access to information, but they also embody exceptions, as you rightly pointed out. A perusal of the existing legislation in the United Kingdom, the United States, and other democratic countries will show that these acts come with some exceptions. This is universally the practice and is accepted. Exceptions are expressly spelled out in such acts for the purpose of public order, for maintaining stability, for respecting other legal and ethical obligations, and more importantly, for the protection of basic rights of the individual. In Mauritius, as with the legislation pertaining to this matter in other democratic countries, our Data Protection Act lays clearly the universal principle of protection of personal and sensitive data of the individual. Exceptions to this right is also clearly and limitatively laid down in the said Act. When the Freedom of Information Act will be introduced, it will be in conformity with the best practices in other jurisdictions. As the Honourable Member rightly says in his question, it will have to strike a balance between transparency and other interests such as national security, public safety and defence. The Act will also include exceptions aiming at protecting the fundamental rights of individuals. Madam Speaker, the transactions, whether they involve public funds or not, usually contain confidentiality clauses, though this is not a mandatory requirement of the law of contract. However, confidentiality clauses are inserted in contracts for a wide variety of reasons, and these are universally accepted. Therefore, a blanket ban on the use of confidentiality clauses in transactions, except for matters related to defence and national security, as proposed in the question, whilst desirable, may have to be examined in the broader context of exceptions applicable to such types of legislation, whilst ensuring that the principles of accountability and transparency are not undermined.
Yes?
Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister realizes that with the use of public funds, there has to be accountability. And in the past, whether the last government, I'm coming up, whether the last government or the government before that have used confidentiality clauses with regards to in contracts and therefore have relied on that so as not to allow Parliament to have its function of oversight. Therefore, the question, Madam Speaker, is whether he undertakes that any contract with regards to public funds will not use confidentiality clauses, because we have seen in the past that Mauritius has invoked confidentiality clauses, while the other party had no problem in disclosing the information. So can he undertake that such use of confidentiality clauses will not be used?
I'll just explain, I thought, at length what we intend to do. You yourself in your question says, except for matters relating to defense and national security. I did say that also. But there are also some confidentiality clauses in some cases which need to be looked at very properly. This is what I said.
I'll take an example. Let's take the example of Côte d'Or Limited. Of Côte d'Or Limited, where there has been...
You're on slippery ground.
There has been not only... Where there has been, it has been... I can take the example of Jingfai also, where there has been relied...
I want you to put a question.
I am putting the question, Madam Speaker.
No, you're stating...
The question is that wherever public funds are involved, of course, where the matters relate to security is one thing, acceptable. But wherever there is public funds, it should, one, fall under the Public Procurement Act, and it should not be the subject of confidentiality clauses, because the public has the right to know. So therefore, will he contemplate not having any exception other than what we both agree, national security and public order? But for procurement of services, for procurement of machinery and equipment, should not be subject to confidentiality clauses at all.
Exactly what you said. Look what happened during the COVID-19. I just mentioned that in the other question. You know what happened. You still joined the party that was doing it. Then you didn't ask any question. Now you want to ask me questions when we are actually correcting the mistakes that you have made. We are going to be accountable for every rupee and cent that is spent, except for what I said just now.
Okay. Honourable Second Member for Rodrigues, please.
Yes, thank you. B73.
Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A of the question, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that there is a shortage of personnel within the force itself. The shortage of police officers is not limited to Rodrigues only, but also across the whole Republic. The number of vacancies for which funds are available is 3,381. The main reasons for the shortage of police officers are due to many officers proceeding on retirement on an annual basis, sometimes because of the policy of the previous government, retirement early, because they were being victimized. And then there is also a lack of interest from qualified candidates to join the force. In the last recruitment, which was held in August of last year, some 1,000 police officers were expected to be enlisted, but only 496 eligible candidates were enlisted by the Discipline Forces Service Commission at the time. And now, out of the 496, 45 have already resigned from the force. There are currently 236 police officers posted at 6 police stations in Rodrigues. The Commissioner of Police considers at the moment that Rodrigues is adequately staffed, taking into consideration the ratio of police officers to the population, which is currently 1 police officer to 188 Rodriguans. As regards Part B of the question, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that out of the 148 Rodrigues police officers who are currently posted in Mauritius, 23 have requested that they be transferred to Rodrigues. The requests are being considered by the Commissioner of Police and will happen after the next passing out exercise, which will be conducted shortly and will be based on operational exigencies.
Just one.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister, for his answer. Madam Speaker, with regards to the increase in number of vehicles on our roads in Rodrigues, there is an urgency for the presence of more police officers on our roads. Will the Honourable Prime Minister situate with the Commissioner of Police and the Divisional Commander thereat as a matter of urgency and security to deploy more police officers on our roads, despite, as I said, there is a shortage of police officers thereat?
C'est le miracle.
I cannot order the Commissioner of Police, as you know, on the operational exigencies. He will decide, but I will pass on your...
Message pass. Okay, now we have Honourable First Member for Port Louis North.
Thank you, Madam. B74.
Madam Speaker, as you rightly said, with your permission, I'll reply to question B74 and B91 together, as they relate to the same subject matter. The Rehabilitation Youth Centre, RYC, falls under the responsibility of the Commissioner of Prisons and operates under the aegis of the Prime Minister's Office. It is governed by the Reforms Institutions Act of 1988. Its purpose is to rehabilitate juvenile offenders who are below the age of 18 whilst ensuring the safeguard of their rights. There are 2 centres for OIC, as the Honourable Member probably knows, one for boys and one for girls, and both centres are located at Barclay, Bobassa, and they can accommodate some 44 residents. However, following the proclamation of the Children's Act 2020 in January 2022 and its subsequent implementation, there have been only 4 admissions at the RYC for the following reasons. 1, children under the age of 14 years are no longer prosecuted. 2, children with serious behavioral concerns are sent to probation home or hostel. C, the law provides for the DPP to advise that the child offender be enrolled on a diversion program. Madam Speaker, over the last years, the number of inmates of the RYC has reduced considerably. And currently, there is no inmate, and the last one was transferred to Bobassa Prison on the 30th of January of this year, because he had reached the age of 18. There are 43 staffs of the RYC, headed by an acting superintendent who is responsible for the management and day-to-day operations and reports to the Commissioner of Prisons. The superintendent RYC is supported by officers in the grade of chief officers, principal officers, senior officers, and other officers. Since there are no inmates, the staffs have become redundant. Following consultations held in February and May of 2024, with the staff union and representatives of the Government Services Employees Association, the possibility of redeploying the staff to the correctional youth centres or the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family Welfare to provide support in child development unit shelters were discussed. That was in February and May of 2024. However, the representatives of the unions did not agree to the proposals. They instead came up with a counter-proposal, namely to be seconded, that they should be seconded to the Ministry of Education and Human Resource, and also to perform the duties at the level of discipline master. However, when the latter ministry was consulted at that time, the proposal was not agreed upon. Similarly, no green light has been given so far by the Ministry of Gender, Equality and Family Welfare. In view, Madam Speaker, of the need to redeploy, because we need to redeploy them, the redundant staff of OIC, the representatives of my office met the representatives of the GSEA and representatives of staff on the 31st of January 2025. It has been agreed that some OIC staffs will be temporarily posted to probation home for girls and probation hostel for boys, and some would be redeployed to the correctional youth centers. The acting superintendent of the OIC and other senior staff would, for the time being, remain posted at the OIC for administration purposes and to monitor and organize the other schedules of work. The OIC officer would continue to report to the acting superintendent, OIC, and retain all the benefits and allowances and would continue to perform as per the schemes. However, all of them in time will have to be redeployed. Necessary training will be imparted to enable them to integrate the probation institutions and the correctional youth centers. At the prisons department, they will be providing assistance to the officers of the prison cadre, including some of the welfare unit given their counseling skills. Madam Speaker, the OIC will remain operational in case an inmate is referred by court, which might happen. The acting superintendent will then ensure that the necessary staff will be available to provide all the necessary training, counseling, and support. As regards the future strategy of the OIC, consultations will be held with relevant stakeholders for appropriate legislative amendments.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister, for your answer. May I kindly draw this attention that since, as you said, 30th of January, there are no inmates in OIC, and that the staff posted there have been transferred to CYC. There is mismatch since one scheme of duties is under the PSC and the other force under the DFSC. Can this be addressed, please? Can this be addressed?
This is being addressed, Madam Speaker. Let me assure the Honourable Member. In fact, this has happened in the past, and this will be addressed.
Yes.
Thank you. Will the Honourable Prime Minister agree that the whole concept of Rehabilitation Youth Centre or Correctional Youth Centre need a complete revamping to fulfill its mission to address juvenile delinquency, and that is there a need for an assessment of a situation to see at the heart of a problem? Thank you.
Yes, we will be doing that. In fact, as I said, the OIC is becoming redundant, but we will look at it globally.
Thank you. Yes. Honourable First Member for Rodrigues, Ms. Colette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question B75, please.
Madam Speaker, with regard to part A of the question, I'm tabling the information requested by the Honourable Member. It's a long answer. As regarding part B of the question, prisons and reform institutions in Rodrigues fall under the responsibility of the Rodrigues Regional Assembly, as outlined in the Rodrigues Regional Assembly Act. So the question should be addressed to the Assembly.
Yes. Honourable Second Member for Rodrigues.
Yes, B75, 76, sorry.
Madam Speaker, Section 53(1)A of the Road Traffic Act stipulates that where a person who is the holder of a driving license or a provisional license in the Republic of Mauritius is disqualified by virtue of a conviction or under Part 4 of the Act, the license shall be retained by the licensing officer so long as the disqualification is in force, and the license shall be suspended from the date of disqualification until the restoration of the license to its holder. With regard to Part A of the question, I have been informed by the Commissioner of Police that since January 2020 to 27th of February 2025, there have been a total of 915 license holders who have been disqualified in Rodrigues. As regards Part B of the question, I'm informed that since January 2020 to December 2024, 322 drivers have enrolled for the mandatory rehabilitation course, out of which 218 licenses were reinstated. The course is currently conducted by the MITD of Rodrigues at the Le Chou Training Center and is held every 3 months.
Yes. Honourable third member.
Madam Speaker, B77.
Yes.
Indeed, Madam Speaker, as highlighted in the State of the Economy report, there was a deliberate manipulation of data under the previous government to convey a false sense of a booming economy. It was an illusion, a mirage. GDP at market prices was overstated by around 22 billion rupees for 2023 and more than 36 billion rupees for 2024. The budget deficit was understated in the budget document by 1.8% GDP for fiscal year 2023-24 and by 3.3% of GDP for the fiscal year 2024-2025. We have amply demonstrated that the falsification of data was the only way for the previous government to conceal its economic and fiscal mismanagement and the resulting disastrous situation. But the truth always finally has come out. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A of the question, the real culprits and the masterminds behind the falsification of data have already been booted out of office. Game over for them. But we are looking very closely to take further appropriate actions if needed. Madam Speaker, we are rebuilding our institutions to ensure that their independence, their good governance and effective functioning is a reality. One example is the Bank of Mauritius, which has regained total independence to carry out its functions and its roles. We will also carry out a fundamental review of the governance structure across key public sector institutions, including the Economic Development Board and Statistics Mauritius. As regards Part B of the question, government has already secured technical assistance from the IMF to review and strengthen our institutions and statistical system so as to prevent the recurrence of this terrible manipulation that has taken place. The IMF will carry out a comprehensive assessment of the extent to which our institutions, including the Ministry of Finance, Statistics Mauritius, and the Bank of Mauritius, are observing international statistical standards and codes while complying and disseminating statistics. The assessment will cover all statistical sectors, namely the national accounts, price indices, monetary and fiscal statistics, government finance statistics, and the balance of payments. At the end of the assessment, the IMF will submit a report on the observance of standards and codes together with the appropriate recommendations. This assessment by the IMF, long overdue, since the last one was carried out in 2002. Madam Speaker, the IMF, as a matter of priority, agreed to devote the first part of the exercise to reviewing the organization structure of Statistics Mauritius and its data collection and dissemination process to prevent, again, such interference in the future. We are acting fast to restore the integrity and quality of our statistics after 10 years of abuse. A steering committee is being set up under the Ministry of Finance to coordinate the assessment of the IMF and ensure effective implementation of its recommendations. Madam Speaker, we will shortly reconstitute the Statistics Board and appoint an independent and fully qualified chairperson, and that board will be given full independence in the exercise of its responsibilities. With the implementation of the recommendations of the IMF, we will ensure that in future no government will be able to manipulate data ever again.
Yes.
Speaker, could the Prime Minister advise if his administration has received any representation in whatever form from the then representatives of the MSM government to defend the figures they have presented to the Mauritians?
I don't think they're able to do that.
Speaker, are we to understand that the
Brief,
Director of
time is up.
Statistics, who by law has to be independent, by law, does not take instructions from anyone under the Statistics Act, that there is no disciplinary action being envisaged, let alone taken, against him and others under him for having willfully falsified data, according to what is being said? Is this what the Prime Minister is saying, that there's no action being envisaged, let alone being taken?
No, that's not what I said. I didn't delve into it too much, but there will be action taken.
Honourable
78, please.
Honourable third member for Beaubassin, Petite Rivière. Members, we've got only 1 minute left. Should Mr. Kira.
78, please.
B78 has been called, please.
Madam Speaker, I wish
Last
to inform
question.
the House that since the 18th of October 2020, on which that date the case was reported to the Mocha police station and transferred to the Central Criminal Investigation Department, 98 persons were interviewed by the police. I must say, if we look back, very few were interviewed at the beginning. When there was a hue and cry, you see more and more people going to the Central CID. And so 98 persons were interviewed, including the former Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection, Mr. Yogida Sominaden. Thereafter, a judicial inquiry was instituted by the magistrate of the District Court of Mocha to further investigate into the matter, and a report was submitted to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions on the 22nd of November 2021. The report, according to extracts, was a damning indictment of the way the inquiry was conducted by the police and the departments under its responsibility. It was highly critical of the police's new level of incompetence. Never such a level had been reached, and for trying to bury hard facts under layers of official lies. The magistrate in the report was also highly critical of the police medical officer, a certain Dr. Ananda Sanasi. She referred to a scheme mounted around a concocted post-mortem examination that concluded the cause of death was a suicide when it was clearly later found to be a homicide. The Office of the DPP advised the police to carry an in-depth investigation anew with utmost diligence and professionalism, with a view to exploring avenues as to the possible motives behind the unlawful killing of the late SK. I should say at that time, Madam Speaker, the DPP was requesting this. Don't forget what was happening to the DPP at the time. They were ignoring what the DPP was saying completely, as if it never existed. Having said that, since the alleged murder was reported, we on the side of this side of the House have been vehemently protesting against the way the investigations were being carried out under the direction of the previous Commissioner of Police. After 4 years now, it is clear that there was no willingness on the part of the previous government to elucidate such an atrocious crime, even though it was an agent of the former Prime Minister. On the contrary, they did a cover-up. They said it was a case of suicide. The former Prime Minister even said, I've done my own inquiry. It is suicide. The citizens of this country, especially the affected family, are still waiting for justice to be done. I've said it before, Madam Speaker, and I'm saying it again today as Prime Minister. I wish to reiterate that I'm not at all satisfied with the way the investigations have been carried out in this case. This case is of utmost priority to the police, and the new Commissioner of Police has set up a dedicated team at the Central CID to conduct an in-depth inquiry with the clear-cut instructions to review all the recorded statements, which are being done now, and reports, and seeking fresh and compelling evidence to identify the perpetrators. Madam Speaker, I have further been informed by the Commissioner of Police that a retired police officer with extensive expertise in criminal investigation has been appointed as advisor to the Central CID to look into the whole investigation again. With an extensive background in criminal investigations, he will play a crucial role at the Central CID and assist the department by leveraging his vast experience to elucidate this case. Madam Speaker, I have said it publicly. We will be enlisting the services of inquiry officers from abroad. We think it is essential. We've done this before. I have done this before. I've already initiated actions to enlist the services of foreign investigating bodies to assist the police force in its investigations so that we will ensure that light is shed on this case, as well as the other unresolved cases of false claiming to be suicide, jumping from, I don't know what, cliffs or whatever. All this will be investigated into.
Time is up. Time is up for PMQT. I am now announcing that the table has been advised that B81 and B83 have been withdrawn. We can proceed. I call on third member for Maïbourg and Plaine Magnan, Mr. Lakiram.
Yes, Madam Speaker, B84, please.
Madam Speaker, I thank the third member for Mayberg and Plaine Magnan for this parliamentary question, which will allow me to delve, albeit briefly, on the prevalence of drugs in our schools. Today, unfortunately, even our schools have not been spared from the insidious tentacles of drug traffickers. These ruthless criminals are even mercilessly exploiting our school children and are using school premises to expand their business. Drug-related cases are categorized as criminal cases and are reported to the police as per the protocol established in schools. I'm informed that between 2015 to 2024, the number of cases reported to my ministry in regard to drug-related incidents is as follows: 1 in primary school, 71 in secondary schools. Madam Speaker, these figures are not taken lightly by my ministry. The fight against the scourge of drug abuse in schools holds a prominent place in my ministry's agenda. That is why, on 30th January 2025, I chaired a high-level multi-sectoral meeting with several stakeholders to address issues related to substance abuse, as well as growing indiscipline in schools. The meeting comprised of representatives of the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family Welfare, Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Police Force, LADSU, SEDEC, managers of private secondary schools, officers of the Rehabilitation Youth Center, among others. The discussions revolve around the effective strategies to combat the proliferation of drugs within and around school premises. Madam Speaker, I would like to inform the House about the preventive measures currently in place to combat drug abuse in our schools. First, regular awareness talks are organized in schools to sensitize students and staff against the risks associated with drugs, especially synthetic drugs. 2, there are 2 drug prevention and education programs known as 1, Rebound, 2, Get Connected programs. These 2 programs are run with the collaboration of the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime as to deter the students from surrendering to the temptation of substance abuse. 3, the National Education Counseling Service provides support to vulnerable students and their families so that they navigate the complex issue of substance abuse. Apart from these preventive measures, Madam Speaker, my ministry is fully committed to walk the talk. That is why we have solicited the support of other stakeholders to further enhance preventive measures. In concrete terms, we have initiated the following. 1, targeted crackdown operations with the help of the police department, particularly ADSU and Brigade pour la Protection de la Famille. 2, enhanced surveillance at school level by the school personnel, whom I would like to salute for the good job they are doing, and intelligence-led policing and community involvement by organizing sensitization campaigns and increasing police patrol in high-risk areas. 3, we are also committed to reviewing and tightening relevant legislation to deter students from engaging in criminal activities, including drug use and trafficking, both within and outside school premises. 4, I hereby solicit the collaboration of NGOs specialized in drug prevention, the support of student council, school prefects, and PTAs in our quest to prevent substance abuse. I make an appeal to our grandparents to promote human and moral values in order to enhance ethical behavior and standards among our children. Madam Speaker, very often students don't have the necessary skills to deal with those influence them to take drugs. They don't know what to do and how to resist temptation. That is why it is imperative to engage our students in meaningful dialogues and programs which deal principally with prevention. The battle against drugs cannot be confined to the four walls of school premises only. It is a relentless battle that we must fight together as a nation. Every parent, teacher, police officer, citizen, and politician has a key role to play in breaking the stranglehold of drug trafficking. We must all be vigilant, proactive, and unwavering in our commitment to eradicating the scourge of drugs from our schools, our community, and our nation. Madam Speaker, in the government program 2025-2029, on page 28, paragraph 56, we can read the following. The fight against drug trafficking and use will be one of the major priorities of government. Government will adopt bold measures to end the suffering of families and society in general as a result of the significant increases in drug trafficking over the past 10 years and breakdown in law and order. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Yes. Honourable First Member for La Caverne.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B85, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to make it clear that the previous government acted in bad faith when managing the procurement of the plastic bins for the Municipal Council of Vakwa Phoenix. Their decision seems to be driven by political interest rather than the real needs of the community. In regard to part A of the question, the Municipal Council of Vakwa Phoenix has provided the following details about the supplier and the procurement process. A national bidding process was launched on 10th of February 2023 through the e-procurement portal for the supply of 39,000 plastic bins, each with a capacity of 70 to 80 liters. The bidding closed on 13 March 2023 with 3 bidders: Plastic Industry Mauritius Limited, Alpha Hygiene Limited, Young Bros Plastics. The contract was awarded to Plastic Industry Mauritius Limited after a price revision negotiation. The contract was finalized on 7 August 2023 for a total cost of 20,989,800 rupees, including of VAT. Regarding Part B, subsection A of the question, the full contract amount of 20,989,800 rupees was paid to the contractor. However, it later became clear that the actual demand for plastic bins was much lower than the number ordered. Regarding Part B, subsection 2 and 3 of the question, as a result, Madam Speaker, only 28,988 bins have been distributed to date, leaving 10,012 bins undistributed due to this malcalculation and mismanagement. These bins are currently stored at various locations. Payot Square, Squash Court, 2,347 bins. Palmerstone Squash Court, 1,562 bins. Hermitage Kindergarten, 1,624 bins. St. Paul Municipal Complex, 3,679 bins. Unoccupied space at Payot Kindergarten, 800 bins. These situations highlight poor planning by the previous administration, leading to unnecessary public expenditure.
Thank you. Yes.
Madam Speaker, may I ask the Honourable Minister whether he's aware that bins are also being kept in the office of the Mayor of the Township of Vakwa Phoenix? Are you aware of that? I will request a visit. It is in the office of the Mayor of Vakwa Phoenix.
Madam Speaker, I'm
So
not
are
aware.
you aware? Are you
No,
aware?
I'm not aware.
Of course not. Of course he won't be aware. Big is that office.
I will invite a side visit there. Is the Honourable Minister aware that those places where those bins are being kept, these are in breach of the law? It is in breach of the Occupational Safety and Health Act with regard to those bins that are highly flammable, where people are practicing sports and being kept in very poor hygienic conditions with rats, dead rats around. Is the Minister aware of this?
Madam Speaker, I have made several visits around the island concerning market, everything. But now it's make me more to have a visit over this
Now
side.
you're dealing with bins.
Yeah.
Very important for women.
Yeah, this is what I said. Now it's urged for me to come and have a site visit over there.
Now that you know, you will do the needful,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Mr. Lubin.
One last.
One very last.
Yes. Will the Honourable Minister also engage into an internal inquiry to find out, with regard to those buildings that do not have fire certificates, whether these have been in order with regards to placing those bins there by the Welfare Department of the Municipal Council of Aqua Phoenix?
You will do the needful. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I will do the needful. This is true. It is only after the site visit that you can take actions.
I know a lot about bins myself. Okay. The third member, Honourable Third Member for Port Louis North, Mr. Kazan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question B86, please.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the following measures are in place at the level of public health institutions to ensure privacy of patients while being attended by doctors in the different outpatient departments, including the casualty and the unsorted one. Number one patient is seen at a time by the treating doctor. 2, the patient is consulted in all privacy of a consultation room by the doctor at all healthcare service points. 3, the couch in each consultation room is shielded by a curtain to create privacy. 4, consultation rooms which are fitted with 2 consultation couches due to lack of space are properly shielded from one another by a curtain or portable screen. 5, male doctors are assisted by a female nursing officer when examining a female patient to ensure patient comfort, safety, and adherence to professional standards.
Thank you. Yes, Doctor.
And also, Honourable Minister, is very much aware there have been 2 recent cases where healthcare personnel have been brutally attacked in the hospital. Will it issue strict guidelines so that there is a fine line between privacy and security of healthcare personnel? Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I'm aware of the incident which occurred, and that's why during my speech today, I'll lengthily speak on that issue, and we will be without any pity against those who have committed such blunders in the hospitals. And secondly, I take note of the note of what you have told me. I'll look into it.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, Honourable Third Member for Rodrigues, Mrs. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B87.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed as Acting Health Director Rodrigues that the establishment of a new modern hospital at Plan Maho, near Plan Korai Airport, has been envisaged by the Rodrigues Regional Assembly. This initiative aims to enhance access to upgraded healthcare services, addressing the growing demand from both local population who seek higher quality care on their island and the ever-expanding tourism sector. Madam Speaker, in the same breath, the World Health Organization has been consulted to provide technical support for the project. To date, a conclusive assessment as well as pre-feasibility study have been completed. Madam Speaker, I am further informed that the Commission will in the first instance conduct a full feasibility study. This study will be crucial in determining the detailed requirements, cost implications and timelines necessary for the successful establishment of the hospital. The government remains committed to ensuring that healthcare services in Rodrigues are accessible, efficient, and aligned with the growing demands.
Yes.
Madam Speaker. I would also like to ask the Honourable Minister whether he is aware of the acute lack of staff in the Rodrigues health system, and if his ministry plans to help in the recruitment of new staff in the meantime until the establishment of this new hospital. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, we have taken note of her request. Even in a few weeks ago, request was made to my ministry. I am trying to make arrangements so that there won't be any difficulty as far as the patients are concerned. And we are increasing the number of specialty doctors who are also visiting Rodrigues.
Mr. François, yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether he is aware that there is a comprehensive report by the Hospital Services Consultancy Corporation Limited of India that proposes a state-of-the-art landmark hospital for Rodrigues through redevelopment master plan for the existing Queen Elizabeth Hospital with salient features such as ensuring seamless transition and no hindrance in the correct functioning of the hospital with modern infrastructure, more space for additional services, expanding bed capacity from 194 to 442, and planning along with all the latest equipment.
This is almost a statement. Are you aware? Will you talk
Well,
about it later?
I'm aware of the report. We are working on that, but it all depends on the availability of funds.
Of course. Okay. The Honourable Fourth Member for Rodrigues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B88.
Madame la Présidente, je voudrais, avec votre permission, répondre à la question B88 et B89 même.
Okay.
Madame la Présidente, je suis informé que la Central Electricity Board dispose d'une capacité de production effective totale de 13,7 MW à l'île Rodrigues, comprenant 2 centrales thermiques d'une capacité effective de 11,4 MW, 2 parcs éoliens de 1,22 MW et un parc solaire photovoltaïque de 1 MW. La prévision globale de l'offre et la demande d'électricité pour l'île Rodrigues pour 2025 est de 9,19 MW. Je suis également informé qu'à 19 h le 3 février 2025, une demande maximale historique de 8,97 MW a été enregistrée sur l'île Rodrigues. La CEB a pu répondre à la demande grâce à ses unités de production. Madame la Présidente, en ce qui concerne les coupures de courant rencontrées sur l'île, il convient de noter qu'il existe 2 types de coupures de courant, à savoir les coupures planifiées et les coupures imprévues. Les coupures planifiées permettent au personnel de la CEB d'effectuer des travaux de maintenance. Les coupures imprévues, par contre, en revanche, sont imprévues, bien sûr, et leur durée dépend de la nature du défaut. Le CEB m'a informé qu'un total de 178 pannes ont été enregistrées sur l'île au cours des 12 derniers mois, dont plus de 80% étaient dus à des défauts inévitables de nature transitoire qui ont été résolus en quelques minutes. Les autres coupures de courant plus longues à Rodrigues étaient principalement dues à des pannes générales du réseau à 3 reprises en 2024 et à 2 reprises en février 2025. La première panne du 16 février 2025 est survenue suite à un déclenchement de l'alimentateur d'Ostia B à Rodrigues en raison d'un poteau tombé, et la panne du 22 février 2025 est survenue suite au déclenchement de l'alimentateur de Malautique en raison d'un bras transversal brisé, un poteau. Dans les 2 cas, la protection du générateur s'est déclenchée, entraînant le déclenchement en cascade de tous les groupes électrogènes, provoquant ainsi une panne générale, blackout. Au fait, le 22 février 2025, à 13h15, un défaut de surintensité a provoqué le déclenchement de l'alimentation de Malautique. Lors du rétablissement de l'alimentation de Malautique, à 13h22, 7 minutes après, l'alimentation a été fermée, mais le défaut n'a pas été éliminé. Cela a provoqué le déclenchement des groupes électrogènes à Port-Mathurin et à Pointe-Monnier et a ainsi conduit à une situation de panne générale, encore une fois, blackout général. Madame la Présidente, en raison des problèmes fréquents sur le réseau électrique à Rodrigues, j'ai demandé à une équipe de la CEB de se rendre d'urgence à Rodrigues pour faire le point de la situation, examiner les raisons des perturbations fréquentes et de faire des recommandations pour une action rapide. Une équipe composée d'un membre du conseil d'administration, du directeur par intérim de la distribution et d'un technicien unité production thermique. Ils étaient à Rodrigues la semaine dernière, du 24 au 25 février 2025. Ils ont soumis leur rapport qui est actuellement à l'étude par le board du CEB. J'ai les 6 points soulevés dans le rapport. Madame la Présidente, je tiens à souligner que, comme c'est le cas à Maurice, peu ou pas de planification a été faite pour répondre à la demande croissante d'électricité à Rodrigues. Le CEB a été chargé de travailler sur un nouveau plan énergétique qui garantira la sécurité énergétique d'abord, ainsi que la transition vers l'énergie verte sur toute la République. Madame la Présidente, pour répondre à la question, en ce qui concerne la partie B du PQ B89, je suis informé que les travaux d'enfouissement du réseau de câbles de 22 kW de Port-Maturin à l'aéroport de Pointe-Corail, via l'hôpital La Ferme, ont été initiés par le CEB en 2019, à la demande de l'Assemblée régionale de Rodrigues. Le projet doit être réalisé en 4 phases, sur la base de partage des coûts. Je suis informé que la phase 1 du projet de la centrale électrique de Port-Maturin à l'usine de dessalement de English Bay est terminée. Le CEB est en contact avec la RRA pour obtenir l'accord que cette dernière pour achever le projet. Concernant la partie C du PQ B89, je suis informé que les 6 unités de la centrale thermique de Port-Maturin, d'une capacité effective de 400 kW chacune, fonctionnent depuis 34 ans, en moyenne, et que leur maintenance est devenue extrêmement difficile et coûteuse. Elles ne sont exploitées qu'en cas d'urgence, lors des pics de production, et malheureusement, très souvent ces temps-ci. Afin de relever ces défis et d'assurer la sécurité énergétique de Rodrigues d'abord, la CEB réfléchit actuellement, je dis bien réfléchit actuellement, à l'utilité d'un nouveau moteur thermique de 2,5 MW à la centrale de Pointe-Monnier, tout en retirant systématiquement les moteurs obsolètes. Ces moteurs pourront être convertis à l'avenir pour fonctionner avec des sources d'énergie plus propres à un stade ultérieur dans le cadre de la décarbonisation du réseau électrique à Rodrigues.
Okay, time is up for the moment, but you will be able, both of you, to put your questions after we come back. So we suspend for 1 hour and a half. We come back at 2:30.